Donald Trump is not what you would call a model Christian. He is not into asking for God's forgiveness. He could not name a single verse, any verse, when asked for his favorite Bible passage. He has openly mocked conservative religious leaders. But beyond his handing of the Supreme Court over to hardline conservatives, evangelicals continue to see Donald Trump as their defender. The Atlantic's Tim Alberta has a new book out, and in it he questions how and why the evangelical movement has flocked towards politicians like Trump. Politicians saw the pointlessness in talking about servanthood, about humility, about unity and peace and love for thy neighbor. The market for such a message had long since disappeared. The demand was for domination, and Republicans like Trump and DeSantis were happy to supply it. Their appeal to evangelicals had everything to do with acting like champions and nothing to do with acting like Christ. Joining me now is Tim Alberta, staff writer for The Atlantic and author of this new, formidably excellent tome, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism. Tim, thank you for being here. Congratulations on, it's so deeply reported and so well written and so of the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. First, trace, if you will, how Trump effectively went from being like a punchline among religious conservatives to being their retribution, in his words, their hero.
You know, I think 2016 was it was transactional for everyone involved, right? A lot of these white evangelical supporters who are now his staunchest allies, back then, I mean, 8 years ago, it's like easy to forget now, but they were deeply skeptical of Trump. They were highly suspicious of Trump. I mean, he had to put Mike Pence on the ticket. He had to release a list of Supreme Court nominees. He had to promise to put pro-lifers on the bench.
He had to have Leonard Leo, sitting on his shoulder.
Truly. I mean, yes, all of these gestures to sort of assuage those concerns and say, listen, I will deliver for you. I'm not one of you, but I will deliver for you. And the folks said, okay, you know, we don't like this guy. We don't trust this guy. But what choice do we have, right? Hillary Clinton, it's a binary thing. We're gonna give him our votes in exchange for these policies. That transactional relationship has now morphed into something else entirely, where they do view him as this protector figure, this defender figure. And I think in many ways, Alex, it sort of boils down to this under siege mentality. You will hear it from Christians all over the country, this idea that Christianity is in the crosshairs, that their idealized Christian America is slipping away. And if the barbarians are at the gates, then we need a barbarian to fight for us, to defend our way of life. And that's how they've come to view Trump.
I have to ask because, I mean, there was the same sort of feeling from conservatives in the 1970s and to some degree the beginning of the 80s that they were under assault from this sort of dominant liberal majority, civil rights, equal rights amendment, desegregation, the end of school prayer. And this is the sort of environment in which Jerry Falwell and Paul Weyrich create the moral majority, right? And Trump's sort of ascendance in the evangelical movement seems a much more radical version of that fight, right? And I wonder whether that's a testament to Donald Trump just juicing the evangelical movement and making it angrier and more keyed up, or whether the movement itself was on its way down that path of desiring someone so aggressive, so much a pugilist.
I think it's been a combination of those things. I mean, look, there's no question that steadily here over the last 50 years, much of the white evangelical movement has been conditioned more and more and more to expect not just to be in the culture wars, but to dominate the culture wars. And also, I would say, Alex, that the rules of engagement have sort of evolved, right? Where there was a time when folks who were, part of the crusade with Falwell sort of recognized that, well, listen, at the end of the day, we are Christians, right? We care about these conservative issues. We care about winning Republican elections, but we are, above all, Christians. Our citizenship is in heaven. We need to adhere to biblical teachings on the how.
The Bible was always still on the front burner.
Yeah, the Bible was, right, exactly. In other words, they were viewing politics through the prism of their faith, instead of now, I think, at the heart of the problem is a lot of these folks are viewing their faith through the prism of politics, right? And this ends justify the means mentality that, look, Jerry Falwell Sr. in 1976, he launched this almost holy war against Jimmy Carter, in part because, if you recall, Jimmy Carter had the temerity to give an interview to Playboy magazine in 1976. And then you come full circle 50 years later, Jerry Falwell Jr., after vouching for Donald Trump in front of a ballroom full of evangelicals, they posed for a photo back at Trump Tower, thumbs up, in front of a Playboy magazine. Yeah. And that 50-year arc, in many ways, like, it went from, politics being downstream of culture to culture and everything else being downstream of politics. That if we don't win these elections, if we don't dominate these culture wars, then nothing else matters.
You mentioned some inflection points, some crises domestically that sort of ratchet up the temperature and make Donald Trump even more positioned to be the sort of savior of the evangelical movement or evangelical voters. One of them is COVID. Can you talk about the way in which, I think in ways unseen to the broader public, the way in which that affected the evangelical community?
Yeah. I mean, listen, this ties into what we were just discussing. The seeds of the moral panic here were sown a long, long time ago. And specifically, if you grew up in the evangelical world, as I did, you're very familiar with this Armageddon mindset, this rhetoric, this idea of an imminent clash in America, between the good, God-fearing, Bible-believing Christians who want to preserve our Judeo-Christian heritage and those godless, evil secularists in the culture who want to weaponize government and come after us, that they're going to shut down our churches, they're going to persecute Christians, they're going to try to just abolish God from public life. And so if you've been stewing in that sort of rhetoric and those warnings of the apocalypse, then suddenly COVID-19 arrives. And you have these governors issuing shutdown orders, telling people that they can't go to church, even if it's just for a couple of weeks. And Alex, a lot of people in that setting say, yep, see, I told you.
Yeah.
We knew this day was coming. It was just a matter of time. And then really it became this question of, okay, are you going to stand your ground and fight for your beliefs, fight for your country, fight for your God? Or are you going to be a coward? Are you going to back down? Are you going to get pushed around by the regime and by these evil secularists? And you just can't overstate how deeply that divide grew and how it really fractured congregations around the country, including, you have pastors who are like check every box. They're conservative theologically, culturally, politically. These are not like progressive pastors in these churches, but they said, okay, I'll shut down my church for a few weeks for public health, to protect my congregants, love your neighbor, right? Just try to be self-sacrificial. And they became Marxists. They became apostates overnight. I mean, they lost a quarter of their congregations just because they were not willing to sort of take on this brawler mentality. And you used the word earlier, like pugilistic, right? That is, in many ways, how the evangelical mind has been conditioned to expect something more than just biblical doctrine. It's now, we need you to fight, and we need you to fight against our enemies who are out to get us.
Tim, it's an extraordinary book. The book is The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. Thank you for writing it. Congratulations.